Hi Makeup Addicts, welcome back to my channel. Today we've got a brand new palette and that is the Urban Decay Naked Ultraviolet palette. Today we're going to put this palette through its paces, so grab a cup of tea and come along for the ride. First we're going to do a full blown swatch party, then we're going to do 3 eyeshadow looks for this. Then we'll look and see where this fits in the Urban Decay lineup and ultimately whether it's worth buying or not. So first of all, I will put in the description box below the timestamps for each section of this video in case you just want to jump to the section that you're interested in. That's totally fine. But I suppose the first thing we need to do is open the box. Now I picked this up directly from Urban Decay. It was £43. Do you remember when these things were like 35 quid? But it's absolutely lovely component and it follows the same sort of idea as the Naked Cherry in that nice hard plastic shiny component. But what I will say is the colours that are behind that piece of acrylic are really like vibrant and you get a bit lost in them, to be honest. It's like purples and blues and a bit of green. It really does represent what is in this palette. Speaking of which, let's get it open and have a look. It's actually quite stiff when you first try to open it. Really nice palette. I mean, definitely down the left hand side of the palette speaks to me. That's the sort of colour that I would wear. And it's almost like it's 2 palettes in one here, separated by this lucid colour. You get like a nice warm neutral colour on the left and then like this slightly cooler but really vibrant purple palette on the right with this random spike of luminous green in the middle. You still get the old brush, double-sided brush in here. Does anyone use these? To be fair, I do think that these are probably the better of the brushes that you get. These and Anastasia Beverly Hills give like nice brushes, but for me they're just a bit stiff. I just like something a little bit softer than these. Though to be fair, you can't go wrong with a good smudgy brush. I suppose if they ever took it out, they'd have to lower the price, but then I suppose they did that in the Naked Reloaded palette and they didn't put the price down for that, did they? But let's pop that away. I'm not going to use that, so that's fine for me. But the palette itself looks really nice and I can't wait to dive into it. So the first thing we need to do is crack on with our swatch party. So first we need to crack on with our swatch party. But first, if you're new here, hi, my name's Sarah. Thanks so much for watching this video. If you're looking for a new channel to support, I would love it if you would subscribe to this channel. Having you join the family would be absolutely amazing, and you can let me know down below what kind of content you want to see, because I only want to make content that people want to watch. So if you've not done this before, swatch party is made up of 3 swatches. We do, first of all, a finger swatch everything with finger. Then we do 2 brush swatches, first of all with a MAC 239. This is a packing brush and I just use this in all of my swatches. Then we go and do a blending swatch and that is with a MAC 221. It's like my favourite blending brush ever, so we're going to do that. And I use, between each colour, I use what I call a colour swatcher. It just takes the colour off each brush. Now you'll still be able to see the colour on the brush, but that is just like the stain. There's not actually any pigment left on the brush. However, if the brushes do get too full of colour and I think they are actually contaminating each other, then I will bring in some spares so that we're covered either way. I play all my swatches back at 135% of the original speed, just so we can get through this quickly and completely speed up any times that I clean my fingers or clean the brushes, just so we're not here all day. And without further ado, let's get into this. Okay, so let's do a quick rundown of these, but what did you think? Let me know in the comments what you think at this point. Tripping, I don't think you could really see. It's there on my arm, but it's literally the same colour as my skin. And I can't decide whether it's matte or not, to be honest. I think it's got a little bit of shine in it. Mind Slip is a gorgeous peachy toned matte. I mean, I absolutely love this colour. This is right up my street. Dazed is a lovely shimmery shade, but it is quite sheer. It's got a little bit of a pinky undertone, but it's got some gorgeous glitter in it. Hacked is a wonderful matte, and I mean, I love Urban Decay mattes anyway, so I'm maybe a bit biased, but it's a great taupey colour. VR just messes with your eyes. It's such a strange formula, and the mix of blue and green reflex in it just looks insane. When you actually swatch it, it looks far better in real life than it does on the camera. Then you look at Lucid, and on the camera, on the monitor, it is bright green, but from where I'm sitting, I can't see it. And when you move, it kind of comes into view. I understand why it's in this palette. I can imagine later on when we use it on the eye, it looks amazing, but it's such, I mean, look how identical it is to the palette. It's such a great payoff on camera, but just not really in person. It's so strange. Optimized is very pale, very sheer, but then it is a pastel purple, and it perfectly ticks that box. Warning, just, you know, quite a standard. It's not quite shimmery, it's more like satin, pinky purpley shade there. Cyberpunk's great. Euphoric is a lovely deep tone, but like quite subtle, and then purple just to smack you in the face. And then that last shade, Digital, is like brownish with a reddish tone to it. Really weird, really weird. So I'm like, the jury's out at the minute. This is a really weird palette to me so far. Let's see how it swatches with a brush. At this point, it's worth noticing where the fallout is in the pan, where the kick up is from the brush. Definitely the one with the most is Dazed, without a shadow of a doubt. I would say probably the bottom half of the palette is the worst. However, it's not terrible. So Optimized and Lucid have got some, and Mind Slip's got a little bit. It's not really important to me, but I understand it's important to some people. So I just thought it was worth showing you what we can see in the pan so far. I also thought it was worth pointing out at this point that I'm using this NYX HD eye primer just because I find it really easy to spread on my arm. And now is our final round of swatches before we crack on to doing some actual eyeshadow on our eyes, and for this we're using a MAC 221. it just me, or did these eyeshadows swatch better with a blending brush than they did with a packing brush? Really weird, you know, it never ceases to amaze me that actually, if you look back at my other videos, this happens quite often, but it's not the way that we generally apply like a shimmer to our eyes. So overall, I like it. I'm liking this so far. It's all coming across a little bit more subtle than it looks. It looks like a really striking palette, but actually a lot of these are coming across quite subtle. Lucid is still star of the show, however Dazed is doing really well for me. I naturally gravitate towards this sort of shade, so I just can't help myself. I really love it. The matte shades are doing pretty well. However, I am coming to realise that I may end up with an issue that there is no deep matte colour in this palette. I mean, Hacked is the darkest matte shade here, so if you wanted to like really create some shape on your eye, you might not be able to do that with this palette. But I suppose if they did put that in this palette, it would just be a repeat of another one, so what can we say? But overall, the swatches are okay. I don't think they're amazing, if I'm honest. If I was to pull out a Juvia's Place palette and swatch them all with my finger, I think these shimmer shades and bolder shades would come out better in a palette like that. However, I do think I would help myself out a lot if I dampen my brush when I'm doing that, but we'll try that later when we actually play with these on our eyes. Speaking of which, let's crack on and do that now. If you wanted to recreate any of these looks, you would need an eyeshadow primer. I'm using Urban Decay's for the sake of it. A mascara. I'm using a black Makeup Forever just pencil as a liner. I'm using these magnetic liners, and if you don't use these, you will need like a gel liner or something. Setting spray, or any spray, or water spray would do you, and a selection of brushes. These are the ones I use for all of these looks today. So first of all, I am just going to prime my eyes with that Urban Decay Primer Potion in Eden. It's a proper like OG primer, is it not? Absolutely love it. And you know what, I actually haven't used it for ages, but when better to bring it out than when you're testing an Urban Decay palette. Then this look is actually quite a neutral, very much subtle, could wear it for work look. So we're first going in with Mind Slip and just putting this all over at the top end of our eye, not really bothered about the eyelid, but just really diffusing it out up towards the brow, just a little bit past the crease. We're then going to deepen up the outer corner with the darkest matte shade, and that is Hacked. And every time I look at this colour, I kind of change my mind, whether it's like a taupey brown or a taupey pink. I suppose it's just like really generic. You could just use it at any point to deepen up something that's a bit lighter. And I'm just putting that on my outer corner and then just pulling it through the crease ever so slightly, just to create a little bit of depth there. And then finally taking the shade Trippin', and I hate saying that, I feel like you have to be American to say it, taking Trippin' and just putting that all over the lid. It is a lot sheerer than I thought it would be, and actually it's coming up on camera better than it is in real life. Then I curl my lashes, and although I forgot to put it in the intro, I'm using a Benefits roller liner here just to make my lash line look a bit fuller, because I have very few lashes, and literally after mascara for this look you are done. Out the door in 5 minutes. That's exactly what you need. Just gonna next up, I've re-primed again. We're just gonna go for something a little bit more glam, and first I'm using Hacked, and I'm gonna just put that around the entire shape of my eye, not being afraid to go a little bit higher with this. So I'm just gonna pack it on through my crease and then really take some time blending that out. I just want to blow the edges out. I hate harsh lines. I mean, it's like I find it uncomfortable sometimes when I've got a cut crease and you do it on purpose. So I'm really just blaring this out, and that is a MAC 217. Am I making that up? No, it's a MAC 217 that I'm doing that with. Then I have wet my brush. I've sprayed it down with that Colourpop spray, and this is Purple Dust, and oh my word. I mean, I had an instant reaction when I put it on. But oh my word, what a shade. I mean, it's so reflective when it was wet. I mean, they should put something in the box that says, for best use, wet, the glitter, shimmer, whatever shade. So I'm just putting this on the inner and outer corner of my eyelid. And then when the product is off my brush, I'm just convincing it to go a little bit higher into my crease so it's not a really harsh line. and then just connecting the two at the top. Then I'm making a bit of a mess with Warning. This is like a pink, it's not quite shimmery, I don't think. It's very purple, but it's more of a satin colour than anything else. And I'm just putting this, I was going to just put it in the middle, but then I ended up just putting it all over the lid because I actually thought that Warning and Purple Dust together just looked so nice. So just kind of mix that all together with my finger. Then I'm just taking Hacked on my lower lash line and I'm just pinching a Morphe 506 here just to make it a bit thinner, to get a slightly better line under my eye, and then tidying that up. And then I'm just doing the same on my lower lash that I did on the top and just putting Purple Dust on the outer and inner corners. And then I'm popping Warning again on the centre bit with my finger. To be fair, I don't think I had a huge amount of success there. I think I made a bit of a mess, but if I take a little bit more time over it, that would probably work out a little bit better. Then I'm applying this magnetic lash glue liner, which I have fallen in love with. I absolutely fallen in love with it and really need to just get another brand so I could just try another one. Apply my lash and then just pop some black liner on the top and bottom waterline, and then that's it. This one is done too, and to be fair, I actually think it looks like it took a bit longer than it did, which is I'm quite impressed with myself for that one, to be honest. Now let's do something a little bit more adventurous. So I'm taking Optimize, which is probably a colour I would never use. To be fair, I'm not a pastel sort of person, but I'm taking that on this MAC 221 and I am just throwing it all over my upper lid, like above my crease, through my crease, just everywhere on the outside, and just staying within that area between the edge of my eye and my brow, not really going any further out than that. I did find that I had to go into the palette a lot of times to actually build that up, but it's pastel and I sort of forget that, you know, it's supposed to be pale, where I'm looking for a punchy colour. Then I wanted to deepen up my outer corner with a matte shade. My only option is Hacked. So I go in with Hacked and just join that dot between the edge of the eye and then where Optimized finished. Then I really wanted to play with VR because I love the way it looks. I love the way it looks in the palette and when I swatched it. So I'm just patting this all over my eyelid, just missing out the very inner corner. And I absolutely love it. I mean, it's a really, really nice shade and it just swatches so much better when you can layer it up. And I suppose you could say that about anything, but putting it on your eye just gives you the opportunity to see how it actually performs. And I absolutely loved it. Then I thought, let's give Lucid a try. Like, you can see my reaction from using it. It's hilarious. It's so bright and it's so reflective. It literally reflects the light so unbelievably well. So I thought, let's use it as like a highlighter and pop it on my brow bone, pop it on my inner corner. And then if you've ever watched Ali Glines, she does this thing where she drags the inner corner up towards her brow. So I thought I'd give that a go. Then I'm just repeating on my lower lash line, putting Optimized just along the lash line. And then going in with this liner because I'm going to put my lashes on again. I love this stuff. I mean, I can't like praise it enough. Throw my lash on. And then I just give it a squeeze, like to connect it to my normal lashes, and put my black waterline liner on again, and this is done. And this is by far my favourite look of the three. It's completely not me at all. But now we've given these eyeshadows a try, both in swatches and on my eyes, let's just round this off and see if it's worth the money. So I suppose the last remaining question is, should you buy it? One thing that's definitely worth noting is that it is far better on the eye than it is in any kind of swatch at all. It's also worth noting that dampening your brush is literally taking this palette to the next level when it comes to shimmers. But the question is, if you're a collector and you've got them all, do you need this palette or do you own it through having all the other palettes? So let's have a quick look at that. So in my opinion, none of these shades are replicated identically in any of the other palettes. The shades to the furthest left, the paler shades, do look similar to some of the others. You've got Mind Slip that on here looks quite similar to one of the ones in Cherry. Tripping could look similar to any of the other pale bone coloured shades in here. You certainly don't have Lucid anywhere. I would also probably say that you don't really have any of the purples anywhere, because if you think about it, looking at all these, purples are like void from this collection completely. If anything, they could have gone from a complete purple collection in this. So it's quite impressive actually that they've managed to come up with a palette that is completely different from all of the others. I do think that in the paler shades, it is more about the formula that really gives it a difference to the other shades. But up the top end of the palette, there's nothing in any of these other palettes that remotely look the same. I am just having a point around here to kind of demonstrate where there would be some potential similarities, like in the shade more than anything else. But to be completely fair, if you had all these palettes and you bought this one, I don't genuinely think you're replacing anything. And kudos to Urban Decay, because how hard has that got to be in this day and age when there's a new palette every 5 minutes? So should you buy it? Well, now that I've been playing with this palette all evening, let me give you like what I consider to be the pros and cons at this point, having played with it this far. So from a pros point of view, I think this is actually a worthy addition to the collection. I think it sits in really nicely and is missing from the collection at the moment. I think it encourages you to be adventurous. So it gives you those neutral shades, but then says, no, now you're going to be adventurous for the rest of this palette. And for someone like me, I need a palette to force me to do that, because if not, I'm just going to use all neutral shades for the rest of my life. I think if you like the standard Urban Decay Naked palette formula, you'll like this. You'll like this because it doesn't stray away from that quality. So it is really nice, kind of mainstreamly available quality of eyeshadow. I think the cons to this palette are the fact that it's £43. These things aren't getting any cheaper. It's a lot of money, and if you buy every single one of these when they come out and you like to collect other palettes, you know that it's an expensive collection to try and build. So £43 is a lot of money in any purse, and whether that's value for money or not isn't really the concern. It's just that it's quite an expensive palette. For me personally, having no matte deep shade and no matte bone shade, that just isn't for me. However, I've got to appreciate that they can't put that in every palette, or 2 shades in every palette would always be the same. So, but just so you know that those are not there. And it's also not the best palette for travel, because if you want a good neutral palette for travel, this obviously wouldn't fulfill that criteria. But you know, if you've got the Naked Reloaded or Naked 2, that would help you out completely. So that is all I've got to say on this palette really. It naturally gets a thumbs up from me. I really like it and I will continue to play with it. What do you think? Are you going to buy this palette? Is it on your list? Is it not? Does it get a thumbs up from you? Does it not? I'd be really interested to know what you think, what you want to do about this palette. But that's it from me today. So all I can say now is thank you so much for watching this video. I really, really, truly appreciate your time, especially if you've made it all the way to the end. Congratulations. Well done. If you haven't yet, it'd be great if you subscribe to this channel. Join the family. It would be great to have you. But until then, I will see you in the next video. Bye for now. Congratulations on making it to the end of this video. Did you know I upload every Monday and Friday, and if you subscribe to this channel and ring the bell, you get a treat of knowing when they go live. So if you want to join the family, it would be amazing to have you. Hit subscribe, or if you want, just binge the next video. Catch you later.